Hello, everybody, and good day. Today, we're going to be talking about Moscow, Russia, so stay tuned. We just got back from our trip from Moscow, Russia. We went from Las Vegas to Amsterdam to Moscow. Really liked it. Liked Moscow. Wasn't what I thought. It's an industrial city. It's not that beautiful upon first look. Once you dig into it, it's a pretty cool city. The people are good. It's nothing like I thought. Everybody thinks of Moscow and Russia as a communist country and behind the times. And you have to take some precautions going to Moscow as far as your cell phone. You should have a VPN. You should have a VPN if you travel, period. And then on your computer, you need a VPN and some antivirus protection software. I had a friend that had just got back from there and told me that he's got the software on his computer where he can tell if any intruders get on his computer. And he says he went to Moscow, turned his computer on, and within 15 minutes, he said he had like 10 intruders try to get onto his computer. So beware. Moscow overall is a working city. It's not a tourist city. It is not on a lot of people's bucket list as far as tourism. But it's worth, I would say, 3 days to go to Moscow, and you can see what you want to see, what we wanted to see in those 3 days. It has some very good museums. It has a beautiful subway system, an old subway system with old cars. But you go down into the subways and there's chandeliers in there. And it's very efficient. And you can almost go anywhere in Moscow on the subway. And if you can't get there on the subway, there's all kinds of connecting buses to get you. Wouldn't recommend getting a car because I know there's a lot of hoops you have to jump through and loopholes. What we did is we stayed with a Russian family. They took us everywhere we wanted to go. The Russian family was actually a woman and her daughter. They were very nice, very knowledgeable. We traveled on the subway, but they knew it like the back of their hand. So wherever we wanted to go, we could either get the subway, a bus, and then another system they have there, like a taxi, Uber kind of system, but nobody uses it. Everybody just goes out to the end of the sidewalk and puts their hands in the air, and somebody, and it's usually just a normal citizen, will stop by, ask them where they're going, and they'll negotiate a price, and they'll get in the car with them and go. We did that. I've never seen anything like that, but it works in Moscow. We got in several cars, and good for the people because they can make extra money, and it's cheap for you. Beware, I mean, I wouldn't recommend it late at night doing that, but, if you're a good judge of people, you can. What else we got here? Places to go to that I would recommend is like on the first day when we arrived, we went to visit a couple places, but we wanted to go to Gorky Park since it was a Saturday. We heard about the swap meet they have in Gorky Park that is really neat. It was free to get in, and it's big. There's a lot of people there. We were looking for a Matryoshka doll, which is one of those dolls that one doll is encapsulated in another doll, which is encapsulated in another one, and so on and so on. The one we ended up getting at the swap meet was one of the Matryoshka dolls with all of the Russian presidents on there. And it is really neat. I really like it. It's exclusively that kind of Matryoshka doll comes from Russia. The swap meet in Gorky Park, you can find everything from military items to clothes, people selling tennies, household goods, food. You can negotiate with them. I didn't really. You can do that. It's a lot of walking, a lot of people. I think you'd like that. That would be one of the things I would recommend you go to. And then we did some of the tourist stuff. After that, we went to the Kremlin area, which is Red Square. You can take the subway right to Red Square, and there's a lot at Red Square to do. So you get off of the subway and walk out into Red Square, and the first thing that hit me was how big it was. Red Square is huge. Massive. Then next to the Kremlin, next to the Red Square is the Kremlin. You have St. Basil's Basilica. You have across the street the GUM shopping mall. You have Lenin's mausoleum right there. So there's a lot to do right there. That'll take you the whole day, but walking around there. So those famous Russian church basilicas that you see on all TV, and in Red Square there was two of them, one on each end. The most famous one, the St. Basil's, was on the other end of Red Square. So we walked down there, and you can see it right away when you come in. And we get down there, and number one, it's a lot smaller than you think. It's not that big. And then when you go in, you're allowed to go inside and walk around, but you get inside and there's not much there. I mean, there's really nothing to look at. It's the outside of that basilica that is intriguing, but I'd recommend going and seeing it. But it's just funny. You see it on TV and you look at it and you think it's huge and it's going to be a huge church, and it supposedly is a church, but there's not much there. After we left there, we turn right, and there's the Kremlin Wall, and it's huge. The Kremlin was built, between the 14th and 17th century. I was surprised how big the Kremlin is. It's like a city. It is huge, and it just goes for miles. And from the whole circumference of the Red Square, then it turns right and goes down for miles. So I mean, it is massively big. Just outside in Red Square, next to the Kremlin Wall, is Lenin's mausoleum. Now, if you go to Lenin's mausoleum, there's usually a line outside. It's not that long; it goes pretty fast, and then you have to buy a ticket. You walk in, and it's nice. I mean, you walk in, sort of wraps around Lenin's body, and then you go out the other door. That's it. There's nothing else to do in there. But you get in there, and Lenin is just laying there with his arms crossed and in the mausoleum, and he just looks like he's sleeping. He looks alive. He doesn't look dead. He's laying there, and he just looks like he's asleep. He's not a tall man or a big man. He looks just like the photos. I found it interesting, but like I said, there's not much other than to see his body in repose. So you exit that and go out the side of that, and then what we did is we crossed all the way back across Red Square to the other side. You cross over the bridge, and there is GUM, G-U-M. It's a shopping mall. I'm assuming it's from an old historic Russian building that is really neat. It's like 3 floors, very intricate, very elaborate. You go in there, and all of the high-end designers are in there. Everybody you can think of, from Guess to Gucci to, anything you want is in there, and it's all of it's based on U.S. prices, but it's huge. It's 3 or 4 floors, and it's just big. And that took half the day. We grabbed something to eat there. Then we came back, retraced our steps, came back over the bridge, and we were going over to the Kremlin. And you can catch tours of the Kremlin. You got to go through security, and you see the guards, and they have a changing of the guards. And once you get in Kremlin, it looks like offices, and there's buildings and offices and gardens in the middle. They had an area where they had the Tsar's cannon. And it's just this big, huge, elaborate cannon, beautiful, from the Tsar's days. And you can see they have palaces inside the Kremlin. They have churches inside the Kremlin. We went over to this one area. It was like a fortress. And you could see how they defended the Kremlin. It was, and we only seen a small corner of the Kremlin. If you really want to go see the Kremlin, you could go in there and be in there for a month. It's so big. That was our first day there, and that took the whole day doing that. I'll tell you about the food, so this is related to all the 3 days that we were there. The food's good. You have international foods. You have Pizza Hut, Kentucky Fried Chicken. You have McDonald's. The food's different. The McDonald's was packed. I mean, the Russians love McDonald's. I was funny because they didn't have any tables in the McDonald's because they didn't want you sitting down because there's so many people there that the only way they could get you in and out is to have you get your food and eat it standing up and leave. It was Big Macs and everything else. The menu was a little different, but easy to navigate. Looked just like a McDonald's from the United States or Europe. But they had good Russian soup, and the stuff we tried when we were over there were the meat dumplings, which were very good. In a traditional dish, we had a plate of marbled meats when we were there. It was very good. The soups are very good. We had some caviar when we were there. You might have heard about, from other stories, from other... I basically heard this off the news and stuff, that there's a food shortage over there, and that people are, you see them in these big, huge, long bread lines, and that is fake news. Because, yes, they have those big, long lines, but I'll tell you how I was told, and they have plenty of bread in Moscow, plenty. You go to the stores, they had supermarkets like you have in the West, and you go in there and they're just tripping over bread. They have so much bread. But then they have bread coming from these outside, these bakeries and stuff, that the bread's a lot cheaper. So say a roll in the store was 50 cents. Well, they're selling that same bread for 5 cents. And I'll give you an example in a minute, but those are the bread lines, the 5-cent bread lines, where the poor people or the people who want to save money even go there, and they get bread at the discount, but the lines are huge. And I'll give you an example. We were walking down the street, and we decided to go get a pizza, and there was a Pizza Hut. We could see it. It was about a block away. So we go walking up on the Pizza Hut, and we see this big, huge, long line at Pizza Hut. I mean, it had to be 40 yards long and 3 people deep. And I'm going, oh, you sure you want to get it? We're not going to be able to get a seat because it was a restaurant. And because there's so many people here, they said, no, come on in, we get a seat, no problem. And I'm like, okay, and we walk in and we tell them we're a party of 3, and she sat us right down at a table. And I'm thinking, well, what's that big line out back? I asked them, and they looked at me like I was a crazy question, but they answered me. They said that's for takeaway. And I'm thinking, take? Well, they just come in and eat, and instead of getting it and taking it away. And They said because they save 10% if they pick the pizza up and take it away. And that is why the line was so long, because they could save 10%. So when you hear those stories about food shortages and stuff, it's not true. I mean, yes, they have poor people there that can't afford the Western pricing for food, and those are the food lines that you see. Other than that, we ate fine. I mean, we ate at the restaurants, and one of the nice places we had that we went to that was really nice was the Hotel Metropole. And we went in there, and it's a beautiful hotel. I mean, it's right there by Red Square, and we went in there, and we went there at tea time. They have tea and biscuits, and it's not expensive. And they let anybody come in there, and we just sat there and talked, and everybody spoke English. They were very polite and excellent service. Beautiful hotel. I heard the rooms are nice there. It's a little expensive, but it's a beautiful hotel. I'd recommend you did that. Went there either for breakfast, lunch, dinner, or tea time, because the food is great there too. They have an excellent restaurant. So where do you go if you're at night and you want to go have a couple drinks and you want to go to a safe area? Well, there's a ton of nightclubs around there. We went to one. We went to one nightclub disco late at night, and that was as nice as anything in the West. But just to walk around, shop, maybe go to a bar or go to a restaurant, go down to Arbot Street. And they have a Hard Rock Hotel down there, or Hard Rock Casino, I'm sorry, not casino. Hard Rock bar and restaurant down there. And very nice. We've only went in for a couple seconds, but there's all kinds of bars and restaurants there. Places that have traditional Russian food, or you want American food or European food. They had seafood restaurants. It's very nice. We got I did a portrait by a man who drew caricatures in charcoal. And I have that here on the wall now. And the only thing, he wanted dollars to do it. It wasn't expensive. It was $8 or something. And when you sit down and get this, you have all these people just looking at you getting this portrait. And the guy does a really good job, the guy who did me, but there's several of them there, and that will do that for you. I never did not feel safe there. Everybody was polite. Almost everybody spoke English. That's where I'd recommend that you went one night or two or three just to walk around. There's so much there, you're not going to be able to go to all the restaurants you want to go to, or the bars, so you might want to come back, but that's nice. In Moscow, as opposed to St. Petersburg, there's not a lot of Russian castles and stuff like the Tsar's castles, and those are more over in St. Petersburg. But what they do have in Moscow is museums, and they have gorgeous museums with artists from around the world. I mean, you can see Salvador Dali, Picasso in these museums, and they're massively big, huge. I would recommend you did that. There's one called the State Historic Museum, and then the other one is the Pushkin Museum. Those are the two I'd recommend you see. Those are the two we went to. and that is 3/4 of the day, just if you want to see those. Getting around Russia, they do have a train system, which is very good. I mean, if you literally want to get from one side of Moscow to the other, you can take an above-ground train system. That is, trains seem to run slow, but they're very efficient and they're easy, and they have first class and second class. So we did that. I'd recommend that to you. Otherwise, I found Moscow is a nice city. It's not a beautiful city. It is good people. They have a lot of traffic, and they drive crazy over there. The Russian people were not like I thought they were. They're as sophisticated as you are. They understand. These people are. One thing that I was surprised is how educated these people are, and how they love their education. As far as you would come out of a restaurant or walk down the street or something, and the majority of people that were selling stuff on the street were selling books. Yeah, books. Or CDs of historical CDs. Or they're very well read. They work hard, the house that we stayed in, with the people we stayed in, was an apartment, and it was big, and it was a one bathroom in there, and it was it was an old interior, an old kitchen, but they had a living room and a den, and in the living room they had a television with all the channels from Europe and the United States. They had dish TV, they had the internet, they all had iPhones. They said there's no censorship over there, that they can get basically whatever they want. These people are as in touch with everything you're in touch with. They live in Moscow. So, anyways, I would recommend you going to Moscow. Just be careful with your computer. One thing I forgot to tell you. All right, I'm going to tell you this. And this will get to the case of how to be careful traveling. We were at Red Square, and this happened like the first day we were there. And we went, like I told you, went to the Metropole. We had dinner, went to Arbat Street. We got a ride back by putting our hands in the street, and had a gentleman picked us up and drove us all the way. And it was a long way, like 30 minutes back to these people's house. And we get in the elevator, and all of a sudden this fat guy starts pushing his way into the elevator. I mean, real pushy, like he was urgent that he get in the elevator. And this elevator couldn't barely